Papists to protect the good name of the Church has been a complete disaster. And yet, the Church still shies away from public scrutiny. After 7 months of persistent and exhaustive requests for interviews for this programme, the Catholic Church in Dublin, in Armagh and in Boston says no. We first requested interviews by telephone in late May and early June. Silence followed until we re-engaged the Church in August, exchanging emails, some of which they ignored. The Church in Boston didn't even acknowledge our emails or voice messages. Eventually, Cardinal Brady, Archbishop Dermot Martin and Ian Elliott, who heads up the Church's Child Protection Unit, told us they would not do interviews. Justine McCarthy believes Archbishop Dermot Martin has been silenced because he favoured telling the truth and was sympathetic to survivors.
He has fallen out of favour with his fellow bishops in Ireland and with the Vatican. He has stopped talking in public. He's not doing interviews with the media.
Martin's Dark Forces comment has been much quoted. This is not a commentator or a critic or an activist who's saying this. This is an archbishop with years and years of Vatican experience saying that there are dark forces in the Church working against honesty in these matters.
With no designated spokesperson to appear on camera, the Church finally produced a letter detailing its child protection policies. For example, the Church states it has twice updated guidelines in the past 14 years. And Church policy is that anyone with a suspicion or allegation of abuse must refer the matter to the designated officer who will contact police and social services.
They've got child protection policies in place that were forced upon them, rammed down their throats by the courts, by the public, and by the media. Had that not happened, there would be no child protection policies.
The Church letter also contained an answer to one of our questions by stating categorically, "There is no question but that the civil law in both jurisdictions takes precedence over canon law in this critical matter." We would have liked the opportunity to ask Cardinal Brady why he did not adhere to this in 1975. We spoke to Tom Doyle. He knows a Church cover-up when he sees one.
Of course it was a cover-up. How else would you describe it? It had to, he came clean, and I have to say that much to his credit. He did publicly acknowledge what he had done when he was an underling on the way up. But that does in no way lessen the horror and the horrendous nature of that action. That could have stopped Brendan Smith in his tracks. They could have ended the whole thing right there.
Hundreds, perhaps 1,000 children were abused by Smith because Brady did not do the right thing.
He enabled Brendan Smith to keep on molesting kids, and he is an accomplice. And yet what's also astonishing, what Cardinal Brady did is what we see played out in so many dioceses in the United States and in Ireland and throughout the world.
Cardinal Brady made a career decision. He chose his career above protecting the children.
What should happen now?
He should be defrocked.
The bishops who have covered up the sexual abuse of children need to be fired. They need to be forced to resign, and they need to be prosecuted in either church courts or secular courts or both, because what they have done is just as criminal as what the perpetrators have done.
Justine McCarthy said that following the Murphy report, one bishop, James Moriarty, resigned from a position of refreshing honesty.
Now, the Murphy report actually didn't make any serious findings against him whatsoever, but the reason he gave for tendering his resignation was that he had never challenged the culture of cover-up in the Church.
I want him to stand in front of me and say, "Samantha, I am really sorry that you were raped and abused and that your teenage years were taken away because I didn't do my job correctly." I want him to stand in front of me and say that.
In tonight's Inside, we've investigated the role of Cardinal Sean Brady in a scandal that's wrecked countless lives in Ireland and the United States. And amongst the victims that haven't survived are transparency and truth. Cardinal Brady stands accused And though he doesn't stand alone, the question tonight is whether he should resign. Many people featured in tonight's Insight say yes, including Mary, who, as you've heard, was abused by Smith 18 years after Sean Brady conducted an investigation that proved to his satisfaction that Smith was a paedophile. Mary has sent us this letter in which she calls for the Cardinal to do the right thing. She's asked us to pass it on. The Cardinal won't meet with me, but the question tonight is, will he listen to Mary?